Come on in.
Come on in.
Hey Jace, how you doing?
Hi Reid. How you doing?
Good, good. Good to see you.
For a shop tour.
All right.
Are you ready to show everybody all your fun tools you've been collecting your whole life?
It's been a long time. I've had a long time to collect tools, and I've got quite a few because I'm kind of a tool junkie, so.
I know, I think we all are a little bit. I think that's why you and I get along so well.
That's exactly why. We have the same frame of mind.
Yep.
Well,
first start us off, tell us about the building itself.
Yeah, no problem. I had the building built. It's actually 40 by 80, and it is a stick frame building, concrete slab on grade with hydronic tubing in it, so that's how I heat the place. I have a 2-foot stem wall, concrete stem wall all the way around the perimeter of the building. And the main reason I did that was because I do a lot of fabricating, and I didn't want to have a problem with sparks going out and hitting any kind of wood. So now if sparks fly, I don't worry about that. So you'll see that some of the stem wall is covered with some white melamine, and it's just because of looks. It's not that it has to be, but I just did it that way.
Nice.
I've got 12-foot ceilings in here, and I kind of calculated that out to go with cost versus height. I needed the height for what I do, and I really didn't want to go too high because it just cost a lot more money, and that was always a factor when I built this. It's probably about 15 years old now. So.
Very cool. Well, where to first? What do you think you want to show us?
Well, we might as well start. Let's start here with the first part in the door. I have a plasma cam. It's a DHC2, and I do some metal art and some bracketry, some fabricating. I mean, you name it, whatever comes in the door. And I store all my metal in these racks that I built. And the reason I built them the way they are is because I can move them around with a pallet jack. I wanted to be able to maneuver them and get them out of the way in case I wanted to bring a vehicle in here, which I've had to do a couple times, but not too much lately. And you might notice that I have my new jib crane up and going, and it is awesome. It works perfectly, exactly like we wanted it to, and it's used a lot. It saves my back, and it's so easy now. I can do this just flawless. It's a piece of cake.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So right next to the jib crane, I've got a couple of toolboxes. You'll see a few of these. They're just cross from boxes, but I've got them with the roller bearings, the ball bearing slides, and this is all of my, I guess you'd call it repair. It's my wrenches, my screwdrivers,
Hand tool stuff.
Hand tools, files, American wrenches, metric wrenches. I don't have too many of those. Sockets. You know, I mean, it goes down. Screwdrivers, pliers. And I thought about trying to organize these, but you know, honestly, this works for me.
I'm the same way. It might end up in the same drawer.
It's just easy. It's just easy. You know, I go through it. I've got some air tools in here. There's a few here, but I've got several in other places. And you know, it just keeps going down. Hammers, a few here. I've got, always got clamps. Never enough of those.
3 drawers of still use them all.
I could have another toolbox of those. So you know, I mean, that's really kind of where we're at with this. The other one is, this is one of my oldest boxes. I mean, it's an ancient thing. It's
inside. We gotta take a sneak peek.
Okay.
I don't know if I've seen it.
You probably haven't. You'd have to explore.
Okay.
These are all basically dies that I've accumulated over the years, and they're kind of a miscellaneous. They're not in a box or anything, but if I have an oddball, I'll come to this and look for them.
Yeah.
I've used them. They're handy to have.
Oil wrench.
Oil wrenches. This, you know, cheapo, you know, basically body tools. Don't use those very often, but you know, you need it.
That's the whole thing about a tool.
Exactly. These are more sockets, the deep well sockets. And this is a like miscellaneous drawer.
Yeah.
You'll see some of this stuff. You know, I've got lots of tin snips, pliers, my air tools, torque wrenches.
It's always fun to see how other people organize their toolboxes or unorganized.
Unorganized, there you go. That's probably more of the word on this.
Yep.
But you know, what's really my goal is that I want to be able to go to somewhere and pick up a tool.
Yeah.
I can't stand when I have to rummage through something to find something. So
Cabinet. I don't know if I've ever seen what's in that one.
this is definitely unusual. This one is all automotive stuff. So I bought this cabinet a few years ago because I just didn't have a place to put all my automotive things. And some of the stuff for the ranch, you know, I've got to have certain tools. Look at this bad boy.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the sweet machine right there.
3/4 drive. It'll do 700 foot-pounds.
Staple guns. You got
Staple guns, wrenches. I've got oddball stuff. I've got diagnostic stuff. This is all old school stuff. This is not new tech stuff. I don't have anything that I can plug into a car.
Yeah.
But it's all good. So.
If you want to get that, Reid, you can.
No, it's okay. We'll let it go. It's probably a political phone call. I don't do those. Extra, I've got all my straps here. I made a rack, you know, for all of my straps for the crane or for when I use my forks, my skid steer.
Yep.
So I've got them in one place. I've got several of these rapid reel hose reels. They're manual, but they work extremely well.
It's next to the door, so you can go
Yep.
up there and fill a tire.
Yep, 100-foot of cord, you can reach almost anywhere.
I like
Okay.
it. We covered up your girly poster behind the crane.
Yeah, I know.
Get you some more of those.
I feel bad about that, but I got more.
So now we're coming into kind of the machine shop-ish or machine area.
Yeah, maybe I should touch on the plasma cam a little bit, what I've done with it. This is it's probably about 6 years old now, 7 years old, and I've done a couple of modifications to it. I've taken the cue from some of the guys that have done this before. I actually have a downdraft and a water table on it. And my goal was to have zero dust or smoke in the shop. And believe it or not, it works pretty darn good. It's extremely well. I'm very happy with it. I use the welding blankets to cover the places that I'm not cutting. And so you get a little bit of dust on the outside, but no smoke. Okay. So I'm real happy with that part.
And it's a Hypertherm
65.
65.
Yep.
So if you want to drain the tank to drain it.
What I have now, if you can see down below, I have a barrel that I cut off. It's a 55-gallon barrel that I cut off, and it will hold all the water in the tank. So if the barrel was empty, I could drain the whole table in that, and then I can service the table. But what I use it for as much as anything is I actually use, and I have about 10, 15 gallons of water in there, so I can replenish the water by just turning on a switch.
Pumps it up.
It pumps it right up into the actual water table. Okay. So, you know, there's an overflow drain so that I can't overfill this table. It'll flow back into the barrel. And I have everything is stainless steel. So I don't have to worry about any kind of rust with this. And I can pick the parts out real easy from the top.
Very cool.
Yeah,
very
it works very, very well.
I remember when you did all that work.
Yeah, it was a lot of work. It was
some rollers to the edge of your table. I see. You roll the sheet metal.
Correct.
To.
I take it from this table and actually get it over to these rollers, and once I hit these rollers, it just glides onto my table. You know, I put a piece of wood in there. It's a 3/4 inch piece of plywood that's about 4 or 5 inches wide, and I can just slide on there, and then I just pull that back out, and it set it right in place. So it works well.
You used to have to do it that way.
I don't anymore.
This bad boy.
I got to get used to
I
that.
know, right?
So I've also got the plasma cam is set up with a what they call a snap and cut. So you can break the machine torch off and change consumables with just unplugging this and taking it off. So it's really, really simple, fast and easy.
And if it crashes for some reason, it just
It stops. Yeah, so I'm backwards here, I can't see very well. But it locks back in, and once it dislocates this, it actually stops the machine instantly. So you don't get any damage.
yeah.
And then I've also adapted an engraver to it.
Oh, cool.
So I can actually snap this off, hang it over the edge, and snap the engraver, slide the engraver on here, and I'm good to go. It's a matter of seconds.
Yeah, you have the leads already tied up there for that, right?
That's correct. Yep. The engraver is actually, I made a little dovetail. It's hanging on the end of the post there.
Yeah.
So
What's the engraver look like? Oh yeah, this guy right here.
that guy right there.
Oh yeah, there's the business. Look at that thing.
Yeah. Works pretty sweet. So what I did was I located that engraver to exactly where the torch is at. So when I make something on the software, I know exactly where it's going to engrave, and then I can switch heads and I can actually cut it out after I've engraved it. So it's perfect every time.
Yeah. Sweet.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Okay.
Okay.
Come around the corner here. I've got more toolboxes.
Never have too many.
Never have too many. I guess we might as well start with these. I've got a few end mills in this drawer. These are my smaller end mills, a few of them.
All new.
All new.
All new USA.
Yep. Yep.
Only way.
That's the only way. All of them. This is like miscellaneous drawer. This one I've got my precision pliers, precision screwdrivers, little scissors, things like that.
Yeah.
Here's my phone, some phone equipment that I have, and I used to run networking systems, so I've got a lot of equipment for that, multiple ways. I got a few clamps here that I've made off and on. Yep, all kinds of fixturing stuff. These are old school. These are 9.6ers. Believe it or not, they all still work, but they're just outdated, so they stay in the drawer pretty much all the time. Here's the newer stuff. I got a few things, that I use all the time. Handy to have, and this is just a miscellaneous old stuff again.
Yep.
This one we don't touch, it's my wife's.
Oh really?
This is the only thing she has in this whole shop. She's allowed this much space, this much room, and that's it.
I'm sorry I'm laughing. But
It's the truth.
yeah, I know.
It's the truth. She's not allowed in here. It can be dangerous when she comes in here. She normally don't. She calls me from the house, so we're all good.
Yep.
We're all good.
Okay.
This is my Bridgeport. I've had this for 20, 30 years. I've actually added several things to it. It had the X-axis servo on it. I put the Y and the Z on it, and that's been a tremendous help. I put the Mitutoyo digital on the quill. I put the drawbar, air-driven drawbar on it. That's been a great help.
Mod ever.
Yes, that's awesome. The digital readout is old. It's an old Pathfinder from Teledyne.
Yeah, look how big that is.
But it works. Yeah, it still works. So, it's one of those things that, if it works, don't fix it.
Yep.
So I use it. I use it a
I
lot.
like your little plan holder on the side.
That's it. You know, I used to be in the computer industry, so this was actually from the computers. You could hang it on your monitor and hang whatever you want, so I adapted it.
Yeah.
It works.
What year is this, did you say?
It's in the 50s, I believe.
Okay.
It's in the 50s.
You mind starting it up for us so we can hear it?
I don't know if you want to hear it. I really think it needs a belt change on it, but
That sounds good to me.
you know,
Like a Bridgeport.
it's a Bridgeport,
Yeah. Nice.
and it's a variable speed, so you know, I like that part of it. That
Because check the dial. That's so cool.
yeah.
It's the only way to go.
It's handy, and you know, that was one of the things I was looking for when I found this thing and I snatched it up. I actually knew the guy that ran this thing. I was fortunate enough; it was in an auction, and I talked to him ahead of time, and he told me that the majority of its life it's spent on plastic and aluminum.
Okay.
So that was a major plus for me.
Yeah.
So
It gets used, and that's good. I don't want to see it too perfect and clean.
it gets used here, believe me.
You put it in the corner, just all the chips fly off, and
Exactly.
just wipe the walls down every occasionally.
Well, and that's one of the things that I did with the shop was on the whole perimeter of the machine shop side, I used white melamine, and so they don't look too great right now, but once a year or twice a year, I'll go through and just spray them down with 409 and wipe them off. They wipe right off.
Yep.
If it was paint, it would be kind of a mess. So that was a goal of mine. You know, it was a thought through process on it. This is what I use mostly when I'm machining here when I'm at the Bridgeport.
So you gotta go slow on this one. What's in this
Okay.
drawer?
I've got my indicators in here.
Okay.
A few of them. Okay, the next one down is pretty much like the little edge finders, center drills, squares, my rules, my dental picks. I got some levels in here. I don't use them very often, but they're here if I need them. Wigglers. I've got some of these SPI stops for the Kurt Weiss. You know, extra batteries. Got to have batteries these days for this. I've got chamfer tools. Next one down is kind of like an extra. It's where I keep all of my Sharpies. I go through a few of those with this, and extra blocks. If I'm trying to set up a fixture or something, I use this stuff for here. I've got quite a few of the 1/4 inch. I've got a plate that I use this on for fixturing.
Yep.
So, you know, you keep it all handy. This one, I've got my parallels, 1/2 inch wide, precision parallels, and then I've got a set that are 1/8 inch wide. And then the ones I use the most are actually these, and they are fit perfect to my Kurt Weiss. They use a dovetail, and they've got a little bit of a divot in there, so when you slide it on, these are made by Tulex. You slide it on, it stays.
Yeah.
It stays with the jaw, and they're awesome. They're very, very good.
The jaws in and out, and they always stay there, they never fall off.
Yep.
Yeah.
They're perfect for that. So, and they have other accessories that you can use with these. I don't have them, but you know, someday maybe. I've got some angle holders, and they do have an actual jaw that has that in. I've got.
That's a jaw you replace.
Yes.
Nice
This is one that you can replace, or you can just use it inside the Kurt. That's not a problem either way. You know, I've used it upside down. I don't think there's really a right way or wrong way.
That one in your left hand.
This one is an angle piece that you do want to actually put on your Kurt, and you can use pins to hold the different angles.
Slick.
Yeah, it's 5-degree increments, so you know it's really handy.
Hey, why did I invent that?
Wish I would have invented that. I got some 1, 2, 3 blocks, which I've got actually lots of stuff like that. I've got some wavy parallels.
Nice, always handy.
They're always handy. These are just angle blocks that I don't use very often, but I have them.
Angle, yeah, literally angle blocks. Yep, stack them together.
Yep. Next drawer down is kind of like drill bit stuff. So these drill bits are my really good ones. So I have never resharpened any of these. I use them very sparingly, but I use them when I need a real nice clean hole. If I need, this length. If I need a short one, I've got the short stubby ones also. So they're handy to have. I use these probably more than anything because they're just real handy.
Yeah.
And they're very stable. They don't wander very quick. So I've got several drill indexes. Never have enough. This is just some of my fixturing stuff that I use. It's just miscellaneous. I keep in here. It's a quick clamp. It's, whatever, toad vices. You got all kinds of interesting stuff here. Yep. And I've accumulated this over years and years. So, there's some of this stuff I haven't used for quite some time.
Yeah, you get it for a special job, and sometimes you may not need it, or may not.
Exactly. I've got a few end mills here that I go to right away, or slitting saws, key cutters, and this is just a few of what I've got that I just kind of started putting together so that it's accessible. This one here, I keep a few more in here, and they're what I go to when I don't have anything in my other toolbox.
You have the A, B, and C end mills.
you do, believe me, you do. I mean, you don't just use one of these every day, but boy, when you want one, it's got to be there.
If you use it once, it becomes a B end mill.
Yep. Yeah, then it goes in a different drawer.
Different drawer, yep.
So,
cabinet.
Oh yes, we don't want to miss this one. This is some good stuff in here. I got a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with a lot of stuff.
No, there is nothing wrong with that. I've got dial indicators. Several of these. I've got some Noga tools for holders in here. I've got some Starrett. Everybody's seen these. Okay. Different configurations for different reasons, so I try to keep one geared up so that I don't have to fuss around and set it up, for different setups, and that's really critical for me. Time is money on something like that. I've got, this is a Suburban tool, magnetic, that you can use for grinding, that works very well.
Yep.
I've got a 24-inch digital Michitoyo caliper. I use that a lot. I used to use it all the time. I used to make thermoform molds, and I would need them a lot. These are kind of like sets, but they're miscellaneous. Fly cutters, end mills, you can go down the line with them all.
Bits, scoring bars, annular cutters.
I've got a few of those.
Yep. Can never have too many.
Never have too many. I use them a lot. I've got a lot of the 5C collets. They're Royals. I've got expanding mandrels. These are, I use these a lot for my plasma cutting. If I cut a hole, I need it round, I use these. These are what they call Wayne reamers. They're basically structural steel guys use these. They're good for that. They last forever.
Yep.
Got different stops, for the Bridgeport. More chucks. Some parallels. I've got some cutters that work very well. Going down, I've got, this is for, basically I made it up for my rotary table, and it bolts right down to it so I can have a chuck on it if I need it. My rotary table's in the corner. This is extra.
Looks like you haven't used it in a while. We need to bust that baby.
You would like that. Actually, I used to use it a lot, but I haven't used it in a while, but you're right. It's a good tool to have. If you have the job for it, you need it, you got it.
Yep.
That's a big deal. Emery, yeah, I've got 5C collet holder. I got a couple of them, center with it.
So this, if you're not familiar, that you put these into this.
Correct.
Where am I at in the lens? Yep, so that's what that's for.
Yep.
Hold round stock.
Exactly.
There.
It also will go into these.
Yeah. Indexer.
Yep. I have a second Kurt vise here that is basically set up exactly like this one, so I can use them in tandem, use them together.
Scale, you never know you need a scale for.
Believe it or not, I use that for when I have a plasma quench that I mix up and I have to weigh it out, so I use that for that.
Yeah.
I have back here, a lot of guys won't know what this is, it's a Volstro. It's actually a part that goes on the Bridgeport head, and you can cut radiuses with it.
What?
Yeah.
Pull it out. I haven't even seen this.
You know you haven't. It's one. You got to see it. Yeah, it's not light, and it's not cheap, but it's an excellent,
Yeah, check that out.
excellent machine.
Looks brand new.
I've used it a lot, but I haven't used it in a few years. But I do keep it so that, you know, it's ready to go anytime I need it. And it cuts perfect radiuses on what you need. So you use a different style collet, you know, for these. I think these are R32s. I'm not sure about that. I think they're 32, so. But yeah, it works really well.
Very cool. Well, now I know you have it.
You ever need it, you know where it's at. Yeah, it's good stuff. You know what's interesting is that, you know, there are a lot of tools out there, and there are a lot of tools that are specific to do a certain job, and they do it really well.
Yeah.
And that's what I like about that. But that's what makes me a tool junkie, you know. I've got to have the right tool.
Okay.
Come around. The next one is, as you may or may not have seen, I have a few of the Stanley Vidmar cabinets.
Yeah.
So I bought this one specifically for these.
Yeah, look at that.
So I've got a few in mills.
Yeah, pick a size, any size.
Any size. It's like I've got probably more than one.
Yeah. Killer.
Yeah, so these are my smaller ones. They're typically from a 1/16 to a 1/4 inch. I've got center drills, quite a few of them. I got stubby drills. Next one down, it just gets bigger in size. That's really what it does. These are pretty much all 1/4 inch to 5/16.
Nice. All USA.
Yes.
All ball, radius,
I have
flute, tube flute.
pretty much anything. Yeah, pretty much anything you need with this.
So all high-speed steel mostly.
Mostly high-speed steel. I do have a few carbide, and I've been collecting carbides for a while. So I mean, I've got quite a few carbide, but not anything close to my high-speed steel stuff. And you know, I've got different shank sizes. I've got, you know, different cuts, different. Some have been reground, but they're super sharp.
Yeah.
So you know, I mean, if I go to the drawer, one of these drawers, I can pick anything I want and it'll pretty much cut.
Very cool.
Yeah, good stuff. It's big. I am not hurting for end mills. These are all reground, so they work really well. I've gotten to the point of where when they're dull, I just toss them.
Yeah.
It's not worth regrinding them for me. And then the last one is the bigger stuff. I actually have an open slot. I have room. Well, yeah, I do. And this isn't the only one. I've got another cabinet over there.
Yeah.
But these are up to, I think, 1 inch.
Okay.
What I've got in here.
Which is about all the Bridgeport really wants to handle anyway.
Unless you're doing plastic or aluminum and you want to go really slow, you're going to end up not really using too big of an end mill. Yeah. I use a shell mill for stuff like that, you know, and it actually works pretty well. Yeah. It cuts really well. I guess this would be my next cabinet. This is another one. It's basically services a lot of my stuff here, whether it's the mill or the lathe. I've got my cutting oils, lubricants. I've got metric taps and drills, left-hand drills. There's a lot of stuff I use for the ranch, you know, my keys, screws, expanding pins, I mean, all kinds of stuff like that. Yeah. I make my own air hoses up, so, you know, I have all of these different size that I can use different size hoses, different size ODs, and I have a crimping tool that I use to crimp that all so I can do it all here. I don't have to go anywhere to get that stuff. Yeah. My tap and die stuff. This one here I use mostly for dies. My taps, I have another cabinet that I put it in, but this is a set that I bought a long time ago. It's actually a Granger made by Dayton. I'm not sure who actually makes it. I don't think that they make it themselves. Yeah. But it's handy. You know, it's all right there. I've got another set I use for that that's metric. Another set that's circle dies. My drills, my taps and drills, they come in this huge box and they're set up to where, you know, you got a drill and you got a tap, you know, so you've got them all together. That's all up to a 1/2 inch. Okay. So, you know, I've got extras for this, and I love going to a drawer, picking it up and going. These are my tap holders. I use these for when I'm doing the mill or the lathe. Yep. I got all 3 different sizes of those, so they're pretty handy to have. These are my extra drills. I've just got a few. Yeah. So, you know, I keep extra stuff there. Yep. Good stuff. Yeah. Okay. My Wilton vise is awesome. Wilton vise. Yeah, I put that in about 2 years ago, and I actually cut a plate for the base of it and bolted that down to the bench, and then I bolted that to the plate, and it's solid. It doesn't go anywhere. My bench is a mess right now. I'm trying to go through some stuff on that. This is my surface plate, so it's basically just a precision granite. And it stays covered all the time unless I really need it. I just pull the cover off and use it. I bought it brand new, and I try to keep it in pristine. Keep a piece of wood. Yeah. Over the top. Yeah. It just comes off, and then you can access the plate itself. So, you know, it stays really well here. Yeah. Gets used a lot. I have a couple of different height gauges and stuff that I use, different measuring instruments and stuff, so this saves the top though. Okay. These 2 cabinets I purchased probably about 2 years ago now, and I was running out of room to store stuff. So this kind of is how I ended up, you know, utilizing the least amount of footprint with the most amount of storage. So as you can tell, I'm a Stanley Vidmar guy. I like their cabinets. I love how they work and how much they can hold. Yeah. So I've got a lot of my precision instruments in this. You know, I mean, you name it. I've got quite a few different things in here. You know, I keep stuff all in its own. Last word indicator. This is the bigger version of that. It's got back. It's got all the accessories to it. Some of this stuff has been rarely used, but yet it's
When you need
here.
it, you need it.
It's here.
Yep.
This is just more fixturing stuff.
Yeah.
Everybody likes stare-at boxes, right? Planer gauge.
Yep. Recognize those back there.
Yeah, here.
Yep.
Yep. Rollers.
Rollers.
Mr. Keith Fenner. This is for you, buddy.
There you go. Sweet.
I use them. They're awesome.
Box.
These are inspection gauges.
Pins.
Pin gauges. Yep.
Yep. Gotta have those.
Full sets. Got a Michitoyo. These are the gauge blocks.
Yeah, nice. Super clean.
Bought them brand new.
Very nice.
Keep them clean, they stay good forever.
Yep.
You know, these are the tiny, tiny little gauges. They're, I rarely get into these because these are tiny.
Really tiny. These are for eyeglasses.
Those are,
Little tiny
yeah,
rolls.
very small.
But you never know.
You know what? When I was younger, it was no problem to do this. But you know, as I get older, the eyes aren't as good, and so you got to have glasses to do everything or whatever.
Yep.
I have a Swag off-road roller, and I actually made myself a roller for rolling some wider stuff. And so I went and I bought his rollers from him, and then I modified and manufactured, made whatever I needed.
So what's in the box is the actual die?
Yeah, these are all die sets, so they're heavy stuff. This is for rolling flat bar on edge. 1-inch tube, 5/8 tube, 3/4 tube, small round rollers. They're heavy, so this really tests this this drawer.
Good stuff.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, they do a great job, by the way. I can't make them for what they sell them for, and they're made very well.
Yeah.
Very well. I have a pretty good supply of Sherlock, the thumb screw knobs. So,
Sizes.
yeah, different sizes, so I can make my own. You know, of those,
If you don't know what these are for, tell them what they're for.
what you do is you take a socketed cap screw that is designated for the size for this, and basically go to an arbor press or a vise or whatever you want to and press it in there, and then you got a thumb screw. They're pretty sweet. You can't torque these really well, but for hand thumb screws, you can't beat them. They work really well. And I've got different sizes, different colors, different styles, you know, round. I've got some that are bar, like this, so you have a crossbar. I came across this deal and basically bought everything he had. So, you know, it was like, I got a lifetime supply.
2 or 3 lifetimes.
Yeah, but at least. This drawer doesn't have a lot in it because what's in it right now is really heavy, but eventually I will have some stuff that you might know going in this. I'm working on a base plate for a fixture table or fixture plate, and this is where this will go. This is the tool that I made for my 1/4 inch fixture and 5/16 inch fixtures, and this bolts either into a vise or you can put it anywhere. I can bolt it down to my rotary table. You know, it can go anywhere. Real handy to have. Okay. Come around the corner. Let's go through the cabinets first, and then we'll look at some machines.
Side now. We were over there.
Just the opposite.
Yep.
Some of you guys are going to notice and recognize some of this stuff. I'm a big fan and supporter of Stan Zinkowski and Randy Richard. Obviously, I like their tools. They're extremely good quality and well made. So I use them a lot. I keep them in the top drawer, and this is my go-to drawer for, setups, measuring, that kind of thing. Love the black book. I use it all the time.
Put carpet in the bottom. That's always nice.
I did. I went to my local home store and I bought indoor-outdoor carpeting, and I carpeted everything because it stops them from sliding around and makes it quiet. So you don't have the stuff slamming around and against each other all the time.
Yep.
Shirtamiko, these are depth gauge.
Yep.
My Michutoyo 12-inch dial caliper. Things I use a lot, I leave them here. I can get to them. My Starrett, I've got all kinds of Starrett stuff. Like everybody else, I love Starrett. Yep. My Noga deburring tool stuff, 1, 2, 3 blocks. Can never have too many of those. Nope. I've got a few of my carbide inserts in here that I use all the time, and I'm still doing some organization on that, but I'm pretty close to where I want to be for what I use all the time.
Yeah.
You got to have stuff handy, You just want it to be right there all the time. Some of my tool holders, I don't have too many in here yet because most of the time I have what I use on the machine.
Yeah.
More holders. These are basically inside-outside thread, and I've machined that off to work in my small lathe. So you can clamp them in anything, but
yeah,
they're handy to have. Okay, this is another setup type of thing. Got some setup blocks. I've got the Edge makes this. This is handy for my lathe. I've got it set up now for my big lathe, and it's very nice for making thinner material. If you want to cut off thinner material, they do a nice job with that. I've got the other style that they're just magnetic, but they're not as universal or as adjustable as the Edge is. So pretty handy stuff. And you're not going to believe this, but I have one drawer that's empty. I'm saving that.
It's going to make a great thumbnail.
Yeah, that's the only drawer I have in this whole shop that's empty, believe me. These are different style and different size drills. The Silver and Deming, kind of stuff where, it's a reduced shank. And I've got quite a few different sizes of those. I got some pin punches. I got some good sized drill bits, MT4s. Miscellaneous. There's not a full set, but they're kind of oddball stuff. They're in 32nds and 64ths, so they're kind of nice to have. This is where some drills are. These are all MT2s. I had a very good friend of mine that turned me on to these. Thank you, Jason.
Yep.
I use them all the time, by the way.
Never have enough of those.
They're awesome.
Nice to have a full index.
It's full, and they're sharp, and they're clean. This is actually a reamer set. So you got over-unders, which is handy to have. I've got, this is my broaching set.
Nice.
Yeah, very nice to have. They're handy.
Like new?
Yeah. Everything here gets used, but it don't get abused.
Yeah.
This is a square brooch that I just purchased. That's a nice 1/2-inch brooch, perfect. I've got Criterion boring heads.
Yep.
They're great. This thing is 35 years old.
Still going.
Oh, it cuts awesome. Cuts very good. And then just miscellaneous extra tool parts.
Nice.
This is, believe it or not, the only Lista cabinet I have. And even though Lista and Stanley Vidmar are now the same company, they're both the same quality. I think they're both excellent quality. I got a deal on this thing, and it's probably 35 years old. And I wish I could have bought more at the time. I couldn't afford it, but I paid $400 for this thing, and it had all of these red little plastic containers in here. The drawers were full of them, and I couldn't have bought just those for the $400. So what I've done is this is all kind of like for the ranch stuff too. I've got wall anchors, I've got metric screws, which are just minor amount of them, not very many of them. Electrical connections, you know, pretty much anything I need in here. If I don't need it, I get it and put it in here.
Nice. My gimbal's messing up. Okay, we're okay. We're good.
Okay. Pop rivets, stainless steel, staples and nails, clamps. I mean, you know.
Selection in the hardware store.
It's a hardware store. Blind rivets, some set screws. I don't have a full set here, but I've got a container that has pretty much all set that you use. So there's a lot of these drawers that have miscellaneous stuff in them that I just had to find a place for it. Yeah. So when you see miscellaneous, it is miscellaneous. But you know, it's things you go to, woodruff keys, you know, snap rings, you know, I mean, this kind of stuff, you just can't have enough of it.
I mean, you don't throw it away.
I never.
You just need a place for it.
That's right.
That's the goal.
Exactly. Yeah. As long as you got a place for it and you know where to find it, you'll always use it. These are just miscellaneous machine screws, the most popular that you use. So, you know, I have washers, nuts, anywhere from, I don't go down below 632s much, but 632 through 1024, 1032s, quite a few of them. Anything bigger than that, and I have different containers I'll show you. This is my stainless drawer. So I do quite a bit of stainless work, and this is where I come for that.
Nice.
And again, it's not complete, but it's what I use.
Yeah.
Sheet metal screws. Whatever we need. I got a feeling we're going to be invaded here shortly. I'll bet you that's Bill. So this again is just kind of miscellaneous. I got springs, miscellaneous socketed cap screws, shoulder bolts, you know, that we've used on projects and stuff, and I've got extras of them.
Yeah.
So, you know, you always have a place for that stuff. Switches. I had a very good friend of mine, that used to be in the switch business, and she would say, hey, I got a bunch of demo stuff, do you want it? Why would you turn that down? So, you know, this is where I come for my switches. Some springs, hose clamps.
Yep.
Miscellaneous. Washers and nuts, small versions. So pretty much 1/4 inch through 3/8 on this drawer, some 1/2 inch, some 5/8, some bigger. So, you know, there's a menagerie of things in here. Big washers, fender washers, you know, whatever you want.
Very cool.
Yeah. Cool stuff. My bolts, as you can see, a lot of stuff is full.
That's it.
I like full drawers. If I don't have them full, I make sure they're full. So, same thing. You know, it's miscellaneous, but you know, I have enough of some things to make things happen.
Better than the 5-gallon bucket that I got all mine.
Well, and it's better than driving, 30 miles to town to get one bolt, and that's my problem. I live out here far enough to where it can be an issue. So, especially if I'm making something or I've got to repair something short term, I need to get it done. I have my Dremel stuff in here, my jigsaw blades, wall anchors, staples, helicoils.
Yeah.
All interesting stuff. Here's cabinet hardware, and some of you might know what these are. They're actually for coax fittings, for running stereo equipment stuff, telephone equipment stuff. Pipe fittings. I've got a few here that I use that are smaller, and I've got a whole lot more that are somewhere else.
Yeah.
This is just a small version of what I've got here. I have an assortment of double stick tape, foam tapes and stuff. I like 3M VHB tapes. I've got some of that here. I've got some that are less expensive stuff, so it just depends on what we do. I've got transfer tapes. I used to deal with that a lot, so I've gotten to know what works and what don't. Here again, cabinet hardware, nails, screws, some lag bolts, eye bolts.
Yep, you name it. Probably in here.
Yeah, it's miscellaneous. And here again, I got some more tape stuff.
Tape.
Velcro. You never know when you might need some Velcro. Yeah, I have it. Okay.
Cool. Okay, where next?
Well, let's go here. This is my lathe station. I have two lathes. This is a 1940s, I think it's a 46, I'm not sure of the year, Victor. It's a 1640, and I bought it used. I've had it for a few years now, and it works really well. I like the swing on it and the power of it. It works good. I put a digital readout on it, which really helped. I got an Aloris tool post for it, and then I made the back splash for it so that all the oils and stuff wouldn't go flying into the room.
Stainless steel.
Yep, all stainless. I made that oak top so that I could screw on all of my tool holders, and they're just handy to have.
How do you hold the tool holder on there?
I've taken, and it's all stainless, so I just tack welded verticals in there, and it goes right into the dovetail of the actual tool holder. So it's real simple. It just is fast and easy.
Yep.
I don't have everything there, but I've got the majority of what I use all the time, so it's very nice to have.
Yeah.
I put in a spray mist system, so it's cool mist. It has less flinging and less of a mess. And I still use oil once in a while, but most of the time it's just cool mist.
The whole size on this is?
It's actually 2-inch.
2-inch?
Yep.
On a 1640.
Yep.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a nice size. It's not the longest one in the world, but you know what? It does everything I need it to do. My cool mist is turned on right here. I've got air on every machine so that I can keep it clean.
And you have single phase power here.
Yes.
Yep.
So I run this along with the Bridgeport, I run them off of static phase converters. When I first started, I had the option of going with 3-phase in this building, and I would have never dreamt that I would have what I have right now in here. So I said, no, I'll go with single phase, because it was going to cost me another $6,000 or $7,000 to go 3-phase. And I ended up, actually I've got 3 machines that I need phase converters on. So, at first it was a one machine at a time. If it would have been all 3 at one time, I probably would have done a rotary. The rotaries are a nice way to go. But I've had that static phase converter on my Bridgeport now for probably close to 25 or 30 years, and it hasn't given me one speck of problem. But I don't do a lot of heavy milling either. You know, that's one of the issues. The other one is my surface grinder. Yeah, it's 3-phase.
We'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll get to that eventually. And then this bad boy. This one here I could probably use a rotary on because, you know, it's got the power to do what I need to do. But, you know, I deal with what I've got.
Yep. And then behind you?
Behind me, I've got my first lathe, and that's actually it's a Maximat Super 11 that's made by Emco Meyer. It's not an Enco, it's an Emco Meyer, and it's made in Austria. And it's a precision lathe, and it does very well. I bought it almost brand new. It went to a trade school, and they used it for a year, and then they traded it off and sold them. And I was lucky enough to know the salesman, and he knew I was looking for one, so he let me know, and I jumped on it. I grabbed it right away. It's been an extremely good lathe for me. But it has its limitations. You know, it's 11-inch swing. It's got I think it's a 1.25 through hole. The bed's not that long. It might be 24 inches total. But you know, for little precision stuff, it's very good.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to put a digital readout on it, but you know, I just haven't done it. I use the dials.
Sure.
Old school stuff.
Little workstation.
Yep.
Next to it. Gotta have
Both these, so I can work off of this both ways. I keep the stuff that I use all the time in here, my scales, wrenches that I need, jaws for the chucks, you know, little things like that. I've got them right here. So, you know, I just, my coolant and all that stuff, I keep it right there.
cabinet behind you.
This cabinet is top drawers for my surface grinder tools and a couple of belts for my belt sander.
Yep.
So I keep a few of those in here. The next one down is basically my extra lathe tools. Got some small chucks, some big chucks. I've got a 3-jaw and a 4-jaw for my Emco Meyer. I've got a collet closer for this. You know, just miscellaneous extra stuff here. Dead centers, live centers. Next one down, these drawers get heavy. This is brass and stainless steel. Just rem stuff. So if I need small pieces, I just come to here. Some sheet stock, but most of it's smaller. Stainless, different kinds of brass. You know, if you need bushings and that kind of thing. Aluminum, same thing. Just miscellaneous. I've got this in a couple places so that, you know, it's handy to have. You just never know when you're going to need a small piece of this stuff. The steel, kind of like the same thing.
Yeah. Gotta have all that handy.
You know,
Parts.
I always say that you can't have too much of this, but you really can. You really can. It's that time that you need that piece that, you know, you really want to find it. This is just all miscellaneous extra parts for tools that I have that had other things that I don't use. So I just keep them just in case. You never know.
Nice.
Drill press is a Clausing. It's an old drill press, but I went through the whole thing. A friend of mine gave it to me, and I went through the whole thing, and now it serves as a great drill press for me. I made a little table so I could put my vices on it, but it is a floor standing, so you know it's pretty handy.
Yeah, floor standing, but a table around.
Table around the neck, so I don't have to bend down to the floor to pick stuff up. Yeah.
Very cool. Okay.
Okay.
What's next?
Let's grinder. It's a Challenger. I keep it covered all the time, but it's an H618, so it's 6-inch wide, 18 inches long. Magnetic chuck. I always keep covered, so you know it's in pretty good shape. And you know what's funny is I tried to sell this. I don't know, probably 5 years ago. And I'm actually glad it didn't sell because now I use it. Now I use it. It's a great tool. When I first bought it, I actually bought it from a guy that made parachutes for drag cars. And he just didn't want it in the shop anymore, and I helped him out with that.
Very cool.
This is one that has to have a phase converter on it. It is a 3-phase motor, but it runs like a dream. It's just super smooth. It's got very few hours on it. I started to actually repaint the whole thing, and the whole cabinet used to be this light blue color, and it was just too much for me. So I was going through and redoing it all, and I just stopped at that. I'm going, oh, you know what? Why? Yeah. That's the color they were. Why not leave it that way?
Sure.
So I did. It all works perfectly. The oiler on it, everything works great. The only problem with it is it's manual.
Yeah.
Let's jump to here. This is it's a Carolina 40-ton arbor press or not arbor press, hydraulic press. I bought the Swag Off-Road plates for it so that you can bend. I've got a finger brake and a regular brake for it. I use that once in a while. I made some shelves that I can actually just put it back on again. I wish it was electric, but for as much as I use it for, it works very, very well. So it's a tool that you use and go from there. These are Swag Off-Road plates. They're super strong. They're sturdy as hell. I saw a video of these Harbor Freight plates that they have shatter.
Yeah.
I went and bought one of these right away, a real big set of them, so I'll never have that problem.
Nope.
So
cool.
That's good. This is kind of my grinding area. Bought this brand new. This thing's awesome. It's just 2-inch wide belt. I've got several different wheels for different grinders. I bought this from an auction not too long ago.
Yep.
So that works. I've got an old Craftsman grinder that I got a buffing wheel on with a green wheel. I've got one that's got a coarse wheel. This is an old 6-inch grinder, Baldor. This is a Scotch-Brite wheel on it. So it's handy to have for that stuff.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Next.
Behind you. Okay, so we'll come over to these Stanley Vidmars. When I bought these, they had drawers and they had shelves from here on up, and I just said, nah, you know what, I'm gonna change that. I want to put drawers and everything because it's just easier for me to store everything in drawers. And it might look goofy because I put gray in there, but I put them in on another order that I had in, and I just said I'll just leave them all gray because if I ever replace these with different size drawers, I'd do it all in gray. Gray is my color. So anyway, this drawer's got miscellaneous drill bits in it, lots of them. They're something that
You never have enough drill bits.
You never have enough drill bits.
No such thing as too much tool.
Yeah, I just, and here's more. These are a little bit bigger, just go from size. I didn't separate them by exact sizes, but you know what, I just come over and go through them if I need them. Not a big deal. Here's my bigger end mill stuff. Stuff like this.
Yeah.
Now you have the tool for this.
I do.
You have the tool for this. And my guess is someday you will probably have this. So, I've got all these, they're all brand new, old stock, but they're brand new. And they're all USA made. So the beauty of it is I'll never run out of end mills. From here, I go down to socket head cap screws. We talked about them earlier. I actually have a pretty much full range of 5/16s and 3/8 socket head cap screws because I use them all the time for tooling or for tools and stuff like that. So, I got some miscellaneous stuff mixed in here. but this pretty much covers everything up to 2-inch. So, you know, if I need a 5/16 cyclic cap screw, I've got it. 3/8, same thing. Covers it through 2-inch long. From there, you know, typically I'll buy it per whatever job I've got to have. It's not something I need to have. These are just basically my stereo miscellaneous stuff, my coax wire, phone wire, wheels. I keep horseshoes in there. Another thing that I do is I have a key machine so I can cut my own keys. And so I've gone through and bought some old stock from a company and sorted them all out and have them categorized so that if I have a blank key and you need a key, I can cut it.
Sweet.
Yeah. Got them written down so I can look at them and find them. These are all house and padlock keys. You know, so, you know, they're pretty much divided up to whatever you need. If you got a Schlager, if you got a quick set, I mean, that's a piece of cake. I can cut them in less than 5 minutes. Cool. So, this is automotive and motorcycle keys.
Yeah.
So, these comes down to the ranching and farming stuff. This is all for my spring tooth parts. Yep. If I need bolts or clamps or clevises or washers or nuts or whatever, I have them all there. These are all my Torx wood screws that I use. I love those things. They go through like nothing. They hold really, really well. Go down to lag bolts and carriage bolts, trailer lights, miscellaneous, some nails. I don't like doing this anymore. I like the guns. Yeah. Pull the trigger. Yep. Silicone sheets, hydraulic hoses, Velcro, rubber molding stuff. I make my own gaskets, so if I need to, I've got rubber, I can, it's Buna stuff, I can actually make all that stuff here. Here's some more trailer parts. And then I've got electric cord on the 2 bottom ones. Nice. Here I've got all of my drip mist irrigation stuff.
Yep.
This is kind of like jigs and fixtures or rigging stuff. So I've got, I can make up my own cables if I've got the right cable. I've got all the clamps, I got the tool to make them. You know, I mean, it's handy for that, especially for the farming side of that. I use that quite a bit. Here's my my 2-inch, most of all of my 2-inch, some 3-inch abrasives that I use for my grinding or polishing or whatever I need. I've got several die grinders that I use for this. So
very cool. Yeah,
they're handy. And then next door down is 3-inch. I have both styles of this where, you know, I've got the this used to be called the standard abrasives connection, and this was the roll lock. Now it's all 3M, so you know, I think you can still get the old standard abrasives, but it's not standard abrasives anymore. It's all 3M stuff. Different adapters for it. My sprayer parts. So if I have a problem with my spraying rig, I can actually come in here and put on new nozzles, different fittings, you know, different clamps, whatever I need, you know. This is for my tube bender that I actually made, and these are all the dies that I have for it. So, you know, it's handy to have. I don't have all of them, but I have the majority of the standard dies.
Yeah.
From 1/2 inch all the way through to, I think it's 1 3/4 inch. My computer stuff. This is a full drawer of antiques. Electronics, bracket, electrical miscellaneous. That's
It's funny, the newest stuff made is the antique. of it all.
this stuff is all antique. I was back in the day. It was state of the art, but it's
Years ago, it's
yeah, that's exactly what it is. Exactly. I've got 2 sets of cutting torches. I got the small set that it's real portable, and then I've got another big set that I use. Don't need to probably go in there. That's my
Hydronic
mechanical room. Yeah.
Open the door.
You want to see it?
Because you said that this was where your air compressor is.
Yep, it is. And excuse the ladder. I had to access my attic, so I got the ladder in the way right now. But I've got my dust collection system in here for the wood shop. This is my hydronic system. It's actually an electric boiler that is used, and this was put back in the day when this wasn't so popular, so we actually made the manifolds instead of buying them. My compressor is a Quincy. I love this thing. It works great. It's 5 horsepower, 2-stage, 80-gallon tank.
Runs the plasma cutter.
It runs everything in my shop.
Yeah.
Everything. All of my lines, might have noticed, are copper. I elected not to go to plastic or anything like that because, for one, Rapid Air wasn't even around when I put that in, so I just stayed with copper
I
for
like
everything.
the way copper lines look. Though. They're
Yeah,
straight and clean.
they are, and once you get used to doing it, it's a piece of cake.
Yeah. There's your air lines.
Yeah.
There.
And it's not that hard, it's not that difficult to add on to them. If you've done a little bit of copper work, I mean, it's not that big of a deal to do it. Pretty lucky with that. These are parts stuff. So I've got a skid steer and I've got extra parts and hoses and you name it, things in here that I use on my skid steer. This one,
So this, most people, they're going to ask what these are.
that's what's called a spider. That's actually for, I chain it up in the wintertime because we get snow here. We're cold, and I chain it up on all 4 tires, and I put these on to hold the chains tight. This one's got a broken arm on it. I just have to replace them, but they work until you only have like 2 left. But they work well. It's just rubber. But it works extremely well, so you don't have to worry about the chains flopping around on it. You put 4 of them on there. It's super fast to put them on, real easy, and you go. Real simple. These are my cruiser parts. I've got a 1975 Land Cruiser, and this is all like extra parts that I use for it. It could be, you name it, anything. So have a drawer for that. Jumping really drastically, I got paintbrushes. But it was a super thin drawer and it was kind of goofy how it was done, so I just thought, well, paintbrushes fit well.
Yeah.
Why not? This here is actually not all strong hand fixtures anymore. This is drill bits and some strong hand fixtures. This drawer is very heavy. I would guess that it probably is close to a max on what it will handle. But it works. And then more painting stuff. I hate painting. So that don't get used very often. Then I got my welding stuff. This is miscellaneous, all kinds of stuff. TIG welding, I've got, you name it.
Probably in
I love Jody's stuff. It's awesome stuff, man. I use it all the time. TIG fingers. I got probably, I'm guessing, 6 TIG fingers. And I've got a couple of these, and I bought lots of these to give to friends because they hadn't heard of it. I got them everywhere. I use them. Excellent tool. This is my rod welding stuff that and my gas hose, extra gas hoses. I've got some stuff in here I don't get too very often.
Yeah.
But once in a while you got to have it. Electrical wire. That's gotta have that. It's gotta have a place for it. And my communication wire. I've got full of telephone or networking stuff.
Yep.
The other side of this, I'm probably not going to go through every drawer because there's a lot of stuff.
You guys, you can just read. You got zip ties.
I do.
Auto bulbs. Hair clippers.
It's all.
Hair clipper?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. This is my wife.
Okay.
I have to keep this here because she cuts my hair.
Okay. Go from
Don't tell your wife that.
zip ties to sprinkler parts of hair.
Hey, and you know what? That's why I put labels on it. You have to know what you got.
Cover plates, breakers, these are all your electrical.
I've got a lot of miscellaneous stuff. I've got metal siding screws, different colors. I've got silicone. You know, it's, you know, dielectric. I've got, I mean, all kinds of stuff. My copper, because I do a lot of copper work, I have copper fittings. These are 1/2 inch. Here's the 3/4.
Yep.
Okay, then it just goes down from there. These are ball valves. This is for my irrigation system stuff. I use all 1 inch for that, and they're all galvanized stuff instead of, I don't spend the money on the brass. Bolts, big bolts.
Yep. Yeah, you got assortment of books and
Yep.
you gotta have all the readings.
These are the most important tools up here though. Gotta have these.
Squares.
Gotta have fireball squares.
Yep.
Gotta have them.
Very cool. Okay, where to next?
Let's go around the corner. Yeah, watch your back step.
Okay.
This is really my computer system for in here. I have an iMac, so I use it. I got a printer in here, so if I get something by way of email, I can actually print it out. I've got it right away.
Yep. Uh-oh, popcorn.
Yeah, this is the most important tool in this shop.
Gotta have popcorn.
If you don't have a shop, you don't have popcorn. You gotta have popcorn if you got a shop. I've got a lot of different kinds of spray paint stuff. Yep. You know, I stock that stuff and I accumulate it. You use a little bit, you keep the can. One of those deals. I got automotive stuff that I go through. This is all like cleaning and polishing stuff for automotive stuff.
Yeah.
And then this is all just miscellaneous.
Yep. Refrigerator, freezer. Let's see. Everyone's gonna ask what's in your fridge.
Oh man.
That's what we got.
Yeah, and I don't have any ice cream in there, man. It's like crazy. Normally I do, but I don't.
Cold mugs.
I gotta have cold mugs though, because that goes with that.
A beer tapper in the shop.
Yep, gotta have that. And then you gotta have some drinks in here too.
Coolers and wine coolers and beers and
waters
and Gatorades.
Gotta have something to drink.
Yep.
Gotta have something to drink.
Microwave, toaster oven.
The toaster oven I actually use specifically for baking my beads for my desiccant filter.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that's what I bought that for, and that's what it gets used for.
Nice.
Cupboard, I've got, you know, just typical stuff.
Yep.
So no big deal.
You could live in here.
I do.
Everything off here.
Yep. Leave me alone, I'm good. The computer system for the plasma cam is here. This is a dedicated Craftsman toolbox for this. My wife made this beautiful cover for me. Keep the dust and make it clean. So in here I've got the things I need right away for the plasma cam. Pencils and measuring tools and different accessories, that kind of thing. The next one down is basically some of the artwork that I have and accessories for this. The next one down, I keep all of my parts for the actual Hypertherm cutter. So it's a Hypertherm 65, and I've got different nozzles for, you know, fine cut 45 amp and 65 amp. Nice. All very accessible. So, computer was custom made for me. I've got an APC backup for it so that, you know, a UPS system so that if something happens to the power, it doesn't damage my computer.
Yep. TIG rod.
TIG rod, yeah, that's, you can never have too much TIG rod. I built the holder so that, you know, I could access everything I've got. I don't have it in a pile. So basically, you just cut it off.
Clamps.
Lots of clamps.
Okay, welding stations.
Yep, this is my fabricating area. So I've got 3 different welders here, and I've got another actually 110, 220, a welder that I use, wire feed. If I have to go out in the field, I use that one. I've got an old dial arc, and that's stick TIG welder, and it's a 1980s version, but it's stout. It works. It works.
Reid 180.
I got a Reid 180 SD. That thing is great. I do. Yeah, you have.
Yep, nice machine.
Yeah, you're the one trying to get it away from me, and when I figured if you wanted it really bad, it must be pretty good, so I kept it.
Nice.
I've got a Millermatic 200 that I bought brand new, and I use it all the time for wire feed.
Yep.
Works really well. These are all filled with more miscellaneous plastics. I have lots of Delrin, sheet stock, UHMW, I mean, you name it, aluminum.
Yep.
All the little kind of stuff I got in here.
Yeah, I gotta have drawers like that.
Yeah, gotta have them. Definitely gotta have them.
And the Build Pro fixture table.
That's correct. I bought that several years ago, and that thing is awesome. It just serves really, really well for what I do. I do most of my TIG welding on here because I want to damage it. And it works well. I keep all my fixtures in here. My fixturing in here. Let me move this over. I was welding this morning before I went to work. So I've got all these drawers are full of my fixturing tooling, and it's nice to have it right here. I used to have it in a cabinet, and now I don't walk at all. I just reach down and grab it.
Yeah.
So it's something that if you got it close, you use it more often. And that's my theory with everything. I need to know where it's at so that I can access it, and then I use it.
Yep. Never have too many claims.
Oh, never. Never, never, never. Good stuff. Those two.
Yep.
Good stuff.
I think you have versions 1 through 3.
I've got them. Yes, I do actually.
Yep. Good stuff.
Remember this one?
I want to put some holes in it for you.
Yeah, you did, man. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty slick.
Works good. Works good. I use them in my wood shop too, man.
Yeah, candy wood.
They're handy. But it fits perfect underneath the table. So, I'm not worried about the top of that, but I never worry about damaging it. It's always perfect.
A grinding station.
Yeah, this table I actually got from a friend of mine, and I modified it. I changed the bracing on it and everything to hold everything I needed to hold, but it came off of a machine tool, and we don't know exactly what it was, but it's great for a welding table because I can use all my clamps for it. So I just bought a couple extra clamp sets and some 1, 2, 3 blocks and lots of miscellaneous that I can use to set up. Then I purchased this, and I use this for when I'm grinding or working on some of my metal art. Some of the dross, you get dross on the back of it. I can clamp this thing down and use it, and it works great.
Good magnet.
It is an excellent magnet.
Yeah. And then, of course, all your little tidbits.
Yeah.
Machine tools and the little bandsaw that's been around for a while.
This bandsaw is probably 40 years old.
Sheesh.
It's been modified a little bit. I put the actual cylinder on it and put a new motor on it, and that's all I've ever done to it, other than I built the catch table. But,
Yeah.
if it works.
Yep, it works. Another little bandsaw.
Yeah, another vertical bandsaw.
Yep, Rockwell.
It works. It's actually a wood/metal saw, but I use it strictly for metal now.
Yeah. Metal. Okay, what's behind door number 2?
Oh boy.
Bathroom, by the way.
The bathroom. Yep.
Here we go.